So welcome to the Uptime Institute's webinar on the 2013 Green Enterprise IT Awards. My name is Matt Stansberry, and I'm Program Director for the Uptime Institute Symposium. Joining me today on the call is Andy Lawrence, Research Vice President for Data Center Technologies at 451 Research, and Sandra Vale, Program Manager of Uptime Institute's GEIT Awards. Jump to the next slide. The agenda for today's webinar will include 3 segments and a Q&A. I'll briefly outline the purpose and background of the GEIT Awards and discuss this year's categories. Andy Lawrence will outline the benefits of winning a GEIT Award as well as the impact that the awards have on the broader data center community. And lastly, Sandra will go over the mechanics of applying for an award. Jump ahead to the next slide. So the Green Enterprise IT Awards, the GEIT Awards, are granted to projects, ideas, and products that significantly improve the energy, productivity, and resource use in IT. This is an international competition, and it's open to data center owners and operators, design and engineering firms, facility managers, and the product vendors. And this year we have 8 categories, and I'll go over those categories shortly. And the application period for applying for the awards is now open, and the deadline is February 8th, 2013. Jump to the next slide. I want to talk briefly about the goals and the purpose of this program. The purpose of the GEIT Awards is to share knowledge and experience. We're asking data center professionals who've made significant gains in data center efficiency to show what they've learned to the world at the Uptime Institute Symposium. And like anything worth doing, there is some risk involved with championing and executing highly efficient data center projects, both organizationally and personally. And the Uptime Institute feels it's important to recognize individuals and companies who have taken on those risks. So the first year was 2008, and since we started the program, there have been over 40 winners, and we've recognized 100 organizations to date. So let's go ahead to the next slide. And now we're going to talk briefly about the 8 categories for this year's awards. The first one is Facility Design Innovation. And this award is fairly new for us, and it goes out to data center design projects that showcase new thinking, new technologies, and these projects don't even have to be built yet. These are for brand new sites. The next category, the data center design implementation, that goes into great design, but can you make it work? This award requires that you submit 6 months of site operational data. Let's go to the next slide. Facility retrofit. So this category is for projects where you take your existing data centers and significantly improve the energy efficiency of your infrastructure. Also, fairly self-explanatory, IT retrofit. We're talking about projects completed by the IT operations staff that can improve the resource efficiency of your IT equipment or overall IT strategy. Jump ahead to the next slide. Here we have the product deployment categories. So the facility product deployment is a category for some type of facility infrastructure product that can significantly improve your data center's energy efficiency on the following category as well. IT product deployment. These are IT products that can do the same thing. Highly efficient IT product deployment. Next category. Green Digital Infrastructure Strategy is a brand new category for this year for us, and it is designed for exceptional energy and resource efficiency beyond an individual data center. So what does that mean? That is if you have data center and IT efficiency initiatives across your portfolio of sites, or a strategy for your internal sites as well as for your service providers. So the Green Digital Infrastructure Strategy category is going to be one of the more significant, I think, projects for this year. Also, audacious idea. These are new, unprecedented ideas for realizing energy and resource efficiency. This category, for example, went out to Facebook last year for the audacious idea of the Open Compute Project. The idea to share what has been, in the past, kind of a closed system where people weren't sharing information, the giant web-scale computing companies. The audaciousness of completely opening up your operations to the world, that was a winner for last year. So now I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Andy Lawrence.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. So I'd just like to spend a couple of minutes talking about why these awards exist, why energy efficiency became so prominent in Uptime, why we want to encourage you to apply for an award. The awards were originally created by the Uptime Institute founder Ken Brill. Any of you who know him will know that he can be very passionate about certain subjects, and one of them was 4 years ago or so, when he became very disturbed, I think, by the environmental and reputational damage that data centers were getting because of the huge amount of energy consumption and energy inefficiency. But I actually think even more than that, he was disturbed by the economic inefficiency of energy waste in the data center. And as Matt was saying, he really wanted to encourage people to strike out, to take a risk, to reduce energy consumption. And he wanted people to be rewarded for doing that and to share that best practice so that others could do the same. Really, we see that there are 4 reasons for doing this. This is in our so-called ECHO model: economics, CSR, compliance, and operational effectiveness. I think there are 4 strong reasons for really engaging in top-down, across the whole data center energy efficiency projects. You can see them on your screen, so I won't read them all out, but in all cases there are big business benefits that come from applying energy efficiency and engaging in projects. When we developed that model 4 years ago, wasn't necessarily supported by all the evidence out there, but if we move to the next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. We can see that when people are doing this, we find that they really expect to get and do get financial savings, and the second most important one is you free up data center capacity. This comes under, for us, operational efficiency, and that has huge benefits in terms of business agility and finance. So very strongly supported by the empirical evidence out there as well. Next slide, please. If you look into where these cost savings are, we find they're in 3 broad areas. One is facility costs. If you can reduce the peak load of your data center, you can save very significantly on capital investment. We have calculated that the cost of new data center space can be between 15 million and 25 million per megawatt to build a megawatts. That's very significant. Ongoing energy consumption, also very significant. You can calculate the figures there. And often overlooked, you can save significant amounts of money by reducing the amount of IT in the data center, and that's become an increasing focus, I think, for Uptime Institute as well as for a lot of our members. Next slide, please. Peewees have been coming down in recent years. I think we all know that. The seminal EPA report back in 2007 had industry Peewees at least 2. We're now seeing them down somewhere around 1.8 across the industry. the GEIT Award winners and the practices that they have to share can be very significant, because we're seeing that the award winners are getting below 1.2 and in some extraordinary cases below 1.1. And that translates into very significant financial savings, as I've already alluded to. So it's worth undertaking these projects, and it's worth publicizing what you achieve for the rest of the industry. Next slide, please. In terms of the typical kinds of technologies we see people deploying, it is rarely one thing. It is usually between 2 and 5 different things that people do in order to qualify. But that doesn't mean it can't be one thing, and it sometimes is. Most of the winners have been on the facilities side, but I think that is more to do with the history of history of data centers and the history of uptime. We're starting to see some really interesting things happening on the IT side as well, or a combination of IT and facilities. So they're ordered very roughly in order of the kinds of things that we see most commonly and which are most effective. But really, there's no particular technology that we're looking for that we think works best. We want to hear all of these things, hear about all of these kinds of projects, and we have seen people win in all of these categories. Next slide, please. In terms of past winners, they are very diverse geographically, they are very diverse in the kinds of projects that they do, and importantly, they are very diverse in the kinds of resources that they have. So I know that the judges can be sometimes a little quirky in their choices. They love to reward people who are operating against certain constraints, or who have budgetary issues and so on. They don't just look for the big, sexy, multinational projects. They want to reward genuine enterprise, genuine innovation, genuine risk-taking. Next slide, please. Thanks. Also, we wanted to show that we don't just want to, give people the applause and thank you for the effort, pat on the back, and that's the end of it. We will produce case studies that winners can show in their boardroom or on their website, etc. And also for subscribers of the 451 service, we will publish detailed reports on how these efficiencies were achieved. These are widely disseminated. We speak about them at conferences. We put them on our website and so on. So we make a big effort to spread the word of what people have achieved, because we see this as a service to the industry, not merely as a backslapping exercise. Next slide, please. In terms of some of the things that the winners get, there's a list here. I won't read it all out. All I would say is reiterate what I just said, that we really do want people to feel rewarded, and we want people to hear about the full details of the projects so that people can learn. We see this as an educative process. Next slide, please. Finally, just some of the things people have said. We always go back and ask people whether it paid off. These are just some of the quotes. If I would summarize, basically, everybody says, A, that it is career enhancing, and B, it is reputationally enhancing for their company. We don't know of anyone who says that the time or effort involved in filling in the forms or attending some of the meetings that we ask people to come to, everybody says that it was beneficial for them individually, for their teams and for their companies. So I encourage you to enter. And with that, I'm just going to pass over to Sandra, who's going to talk through some of the logistics of entering.
Thanks, Andy. So I'll tell you briefly about the application process and some of the judging criteria, and then we'll open, I'll pass this back to Matt for any questions we may have. The GEIT application process is a two-step process, and that actually is so you can work with administrative staff to handle some of the logistics that technical staff don't need to spend their time on, and also because we want to make sure that you've achieved the best match of case study to category. So the first part of the application anyone can fill out. It's basic contact information and just a quick overview of your case study. We then look at all of the information that you've provided and make sure that you've selected the appropriate category for your case study. And if not, we'll contact you and talk through what might be a better choice for that particular case study. Because the GEIT Award process is a double-blind process, after Part 1, we move to Part 2, which is the technical data, and at that point, all of your application materials must be completely anonymous. That's where we ask all the technical details, and the applications themselves have somewhere between 10 to, I'd say, 20 questions, roughly. The facility design categories tend to have a few more questions than some of the other categories. That's the technical data portion of the application. Every category has a different Part 2 application. They are all available on our website. I'll touch on that later. And at that point forward, you work with a unique ID, and all of your information must be anonymous. The judges, we have an international panel of judges. They are independent, and we usually have roughly 20 to 25 judges. They will be posted to our website. You will not know what judges review your application. They will not know what applications they have reviewed in terms of the identity of the applicants. The judges work in teams. They review independently and then review as a team to discuss which applications they would like to get more information on, and also then to weigh the relative merits. The evaluation criteria are the same for 7 of our 8 categories. All of this information is on our website, but briefly, all applications are reviewed for new knowledge, and this is important to think about when you're preparing your responses, of course. On what criteria will your application be judged? To what extent is the information that you're conveying, the project that you've undertaken, is it original, and is it an important contribution to the industry? In terms of knowledge transferability, as Matt and Andy have both stated, the mission of the GEIT Awards is one mission of the GEIT Awards is knowledge sharing. And so to what extent is your project and the information that it conveys, is it transferable for others so that they can kind of follow your lead? We're here referring to not just the technical aspects, but also any organizational knowledge transferability, reorganizations within your organization, etc. The third criteria is impact, and here we're talking about the impact within your organization, financial and carbon reduction, organizational improvements, things of that nature. Measurability is probably what you would intuit, and that is, have you documented your project, chosen the appropriate metrics, and then explain those metrics to the judges and provided the data to back that up. Finally, audaciousness of the goal. And in this case, we're talking about the organizational stretch required to undertake this project. Was this a big move for your organization to undertake, and what can other people learn from this? So those are the judging criteria. There are different weightings for different categories, and again, this information is available on the website. We have a pretty detailed website. As you can see, we have the different overview of all the categories, the application process, again, and that's displayed as a flow chart for your reference. The judging process and the FAQ is pretty detailed. We also have an applicant toolbox that includes copies of all of the applications so you can see the exact questions we ask. And then a detailed link of all of the past winners, their case studies. You can see what projects have been successful in the past. Finally, I'll volunteer that we work very closely with applicants and are very happy to answer any questions you may have. You can contact us through our website or at GEIT@uptimeinstitute.com. And as Matt stated, the deadline is February 8th. There is still plenty of time to apply. And with that, I'll throw it back to Matt so he can go to Q&A.
Thanks, Sandra. And thank you, everyone, for attending today. If you have questions for the three of us, please go ahead and put them through the chat function, and we're standing by to answer them. You'll find it on your control panel there, so please go ahead and send us any questions you have. Okay, looks like no questions so far today, so thanks for attending, and please feel free to follow up with us at GEIT@uptimeinstitute.com, and thank you.
Thank you.